What's up, visionary? I am Clee Davis, your vision actualization mentor. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, this show was designed to help you break down any barriers keeping you from building the vision you have for your life. Today, we're going to be talking about staying focused and building good habits, an especially timely topic at the beginning of the new decade. Our guest on the show today is Anthony Ongaro. Anthony is the founder of Break the Twitch, a website and multimedia platform all about minimizing distractions, building better habits, and getting to that place where productivity is highest. This is why I brought Anthony on the show. He has researched and practiced the art of minimizing distractions over and over again. In fact, minimizing distractions is pretty much the theme of this whole episode, and it's a much needed skill to learn. Anthony shows us how we can limit distractions so that we can build our vision with minimum interference. So next, our visionary profile, please.
Loading. Visionary profile. Anthony Ongaro. Location, Phoenix, Arizona. Occupation, writer, filmmaker, and creator. Founder of Break the Twitch. Billboard quote. Pay attention. For weekly visionary value, subscribe to the show. Enjoy.
Anthony Ongaro. I run something called Break the Twitch. Basically, I hold a belief that if you want to change any habits that you have, good or bad, you first need to own your attention. You need to understand and be aware of where your attention is going and notice the little things we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And that is essentially what gives you the power to then make changes to your habits. And that's what Break the Twitch is all about. So we explore how you do that through removing distractions from your life. That's minimalism, building habits, and exploring different ways to do that as well. I currently live in Phoenix, Arizona. I used to live in Minneapolis for like 10 years and just moved down here this year in the end of 2019 and enjoying the warm weather this winter. Yeah. So yeah, I do all kinds of stuff. I'm a musician. I make videos. I do things across the board, but generally focus on media production now that I'm running Break the Twitch and doing videos, podcast episodes, and all that good stuff.
Awesome, Anthony. So the first thing I kind of want to dive into on this topic is, you said directing your attention is like a really big thing with being able to stay focused, and that's a really big problem I know with millennials, young adults, whether it's Gen Z now, kind of coming in there. And what do you think is probably the biggest distraction today for that demographic?
The biggest distraction. That's a good question, because I actually just spent a week with all four of my nephews who are basically in that Gen Z category. So, it's hard to say what's the biggest distraction. I know that smartphones can be a very big distraction, or social media can be a very big distraction depending on how it's used. But actually nailing down what's the biggest one is pretty hard, because it's going to vary for everyone. Sometimes, just having stuff around your workspace can be a distraction, and one of the biggest distractions that inhibits people from making the changes they want or being productive as they want. It could be just having like a candy dish on your dining room table or like by the door, so you see it every time you walk back and forth. And that could be a huge distraction from your health goals, your fitness goals, right? And having it right there is something that is going to draw your attention all the time. So like I said, it's hard to say exactly what the biggest one is right now, but there are lots of them and everyone has them and they're everywhere. So it's maybe not big, but many instead.
diving into some of your content, watching and listening to some of it, I knew that was going to be your answer. And I kind of, I kind of wanted to get that out the way first, because sometimes people attribute to what the most popular distraction is, whether it's social media, the internet, or technology. And it's like, well, actually you might be attributing your distractions to that, but it actually could be something else that's in, like, it varies for each person. Whether it's, you know, what your tendencies are, or what your value system is, whether that is actually just communication, and your lack of communication maybe from where you are, or makes you go to your phone or social media. Like, there's so many different variables. And I kind of want to go into one thing that I think is very prevalent as far as being distracted, that doesn't necessarily have to do with technology or one thing or the other, but maybe it is amplified now, which is self-comparison. I feel like that's like such a big thing, especially at this point in most people's lives, because everybody, like, life changes so fast and people are doing things and things are happening at a rapid pace. Things haven't really slowed down yet. So you start comparing your progress to other people's progress, or your lack of progress, or whatever it is. I kind of just want to get into this topic with you. I don't really have a specific question, but, like, what are your thoughts on that self-comparison topic?
Yeah, the comparison trap is a big one. And there are a couple different elements right now that are going on that are creating an environment where it is just easier and easier and easier to compare ourselves to our peers, to celebrities, to other people. The first situation that's going on right now is our circle, or our sphere of influence, has grown substantially. And what I mean by that is, if you were to go to maybe the 50s or 60s, or I don't know, like, let's go to a time before the personal computer, or even before the internet. Let's go to the 1990. I like that better than the 50s. If you go to 1990, you get up, you might see your life partner, you might see a kid or two in the morning, depending if you have kids or whatever. You eat your breakfast, you put yourself together. Maybe you pop open the news, right? Like the actual physical paper.
Right, the newspaper.
And see what happened yesterday, right? Because we don't know what happened today yet. And then you get in the car, maybe listen to the radio a little bit, one of your talk show things, the morning shows you like that helps you wake up and get started for the day. Go to work, you maybe see anywhere between 10 and, let's say, 50 people. I don't know, however big your company is. So, like, you get where this is going. You're only coming into contact with, like, 80 people, maybe max, every day, depending on if you go to the grocery store or not, right?
Right.
And so we really only have the opportunity to compare ourselves to this very limited number of people. And you're comparing yourself to the average person at the grocery store. You're comparing yourself to maybe your family members, and you're getting feedback from them about, how you're living your life and what they think about that. And for better or for worse. and the fact that we're comparing ourselves has not changed at all. What has changed is that now we have access to every person in the developed world, basically. Right. And so when we have access to all of those people, there's this homogenation of all of these people that we're seeing in our Instagram feeds and on Facebook and on the internet, and everything is instantly reported now. This person, Drake, just got a $200 million jet, whatever. Like, we see this stuff constantly, and only the extremes rise to the top. So it's like the progression of, to make it in the music industry, you kind of have to be more different and more different, or more and more extreme, in order to really stand out in this place, because there are just so many people making stuff, and there's so many talented people making stuff now. So it's a fascinating thing, but the big one is that we have this environment where we can compare ourselves to anyone now, and we're seeing thousands of people in our feeds, in our real lives, but digitally mostly, and that gives us a lot of fodder to compare to.
Yeah. And now I kind of want to start getting into, like, okay, that kind of sucks. So how do we kind of combat these things because technology isn't going anywhere. If anything, we're going to just have more and more and more access to the world that we live in. So when it comes to being focused or limiting distractions, and I also want to get to some habit building stuff later down the line too, how do we start this process of kind of, I don't want to say blindfolding because I don't want you to be oblivious, but like just not all the information, being able to filter it?
You know, in my opinion, blindfolding is not too far off because there's a lot of different ways to approach this, but there are a couple that I think are really good. How do we remove some of the influence that we don't want in our lives, right? And that sort of means making ourselves blind to it to a certain extent. So the word that comes to mind is curation. So we have to curate our feeds. We have to curate our homes, our lives, and we have to curate the types of information that we want to be consuming. And that's much easier said than done, but it's the answer, really. It's essentially taking our feed. And every time we open Instagram, we see people that are throwing money around or smashing the windshield on their Lamborghini because it's a spectacle, right? And you see that and you're just like, what? Like, I'm never going to smash that's a dream. I'm never going to smash a windshield on my own Lamborghini just for kicks. Like, not that I would want to, but it's just, if you're seeing that stuff and every time you open Instagram or whatever social media network you're using and you're following stuff that makes you feel bad, like, it's probably time to curate things that make you feel good, make you feel better. And so really identifying that discomfort or that feeling that comes, because the funny part about this is that bad feeling we get when we compare, when we see other things that are just we want to achieve or whatever, a big part of that is actually addicting. Like that process of feeling like crap, you go on and it's sort of like anger is addicting. It's half of the New York Times strategy is just like, right. It is just like, I cannot stop opening this app because it's just, I need to know what's the next thing that's going to make me completely enraged about whatever political situation you might be following. So, it's interesting. So it really comes down to curating, and you can do this in multiple ways, right? You can unfollow people. You can follow people that inspire you, that encourage you, that are leading examples of lives that you want to live, and like mimic them and see, what they're doing to achieve that kind of life. That being said, a lot of stuff on Instagram is inflated substantially. So you have to keep that in mind too, that a lot of cars are rented. A lot of the flex is like not fully
real,
all natural, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's, you got to keep that in mind, but curate a feed that inspires you. The second thing is at a higher level, like even looking at apps as a whole, like, is Instagram helping you out right now? Is it helping you achieve your business goals? Is it helping you stay connected to friends and family, people you love, people you care about, people that you get a real sense of connection from? Is it just a way to is Twitch and fill this temporary discomfort that we feel in the moment because we're bored, we're feeling a bit, like we don't know what to do with ourselves, we don't want to work, but we're not really letting ourselves just properly rest and recover, go for a walk, do the different things that help us actually get back into the flow of work and productive rest, play, and work. And so deleting the freaking app, get out of it for 30 days, and feel it out. You gotta let it sink in for a while, because the first couple of days you're gonna rip that comfort out of your life, right? That quick comfort. And so it's going to be uncomfortable. Like, ooh, I'm going to open my phone 8 times today and try to open it, and the app's not going to be there. But, looking at it at that level too, curating what apps you have on your phone. Like, do you have a second if you have like an iPad or something, maybe you just have Instagram on your iPad instead of your phone that you carry with you all the time, or just little things like that. I don't have an iPad, but if you have a second device you can use in that way, literally separating the experience as well. And then at a higher level, like leaving your phone somewhere, right? Like leaving it in the other room while you're living your life, and go check it when you want to instead of when it tells you to. Yeah. Little things like that.
And I feel like this is all stuff that we've heard before, and it's just like the fact that you have to actually do it. And you touched on one thing that I don't want to forget it before we move on. You said kind of curating your feed, making sure that, if there's any toxic anything or anything that discourages you or is evoking those feelings of not being enough or whatever, get rid of those things. And then you also said it's great to follow people that do encourage you and inspire you and make you want to do better. And I always find, at least with me, and you could tell me if you've been through this too, I know some other people have, there's like this fine line of following someone who inspires you and like not comparing yourself to that person. And I just wanted to know, like, have you ever been through that? And like, if you have, how did you deal with it? Like, oh man, this person inspires me to do better, blah, blah. But then when, maybe they're taking off or something and you're still in the dirt, you're like, man, like, am I doing this wrong? Is it worth it? Maybe they just have it and I don't. Like, there's such a fine line with that, I believe. And I don't know.
There is. I mean, my friend Matt Diavella is a great example of this. I mean, there was a time when I had more YouTube subscribers than he did. And he kills the game, man. He's just put in so much work over the last decade, doing film work, hustling out of film school, doing weddings and any project that he would take, and literally just cranking it out and building a level of skill as a filmmaker and a storyteller that I just see his stuff. I'm just like, man, you're incredible, right? Yeah. And it's also just here's the thing with that, right? The lesson in that is I've only been doing video maybe for like 3 years. I've done maybe 200 videos on YouTube at this point. And the reality is, like, we can't compare ourselves to people that we're not willing to put in the hours and the work or do the same things or make the same sacrifices that the person we're comparing ourselves to has. Like, you got to want everything. Because Matt made a video a while ago when he was talking about just complete burnout, or, like having anxiety around delivering these videos every week and doing this thing. And like, at this point right now, as of December of 2019, I took the last like 6 weeks off to totally reinvent and rediscover our direction with Break the Twitch, because we were doing a bunch of stuff. Like the podcast we were running just took so much time and it wasn't reaching enough people. And we pivoted towards something that was less popular than the thing that we should have been doing, which was YouTube videos. And so things like that, you kind of have to step back sometimes and just look at it and realize that, yeah, you can compare yourself to these people all you want, but you have to compare yourselves to the whole picture. Yeah. Like, I don't know how much sleep Matt is getting. I don't know how stressed he is. I don't, well, I guess I do, like talking to him every now and then, but like, it's hard. You got to compare yourself to the whole picture, which is, I think, what we miss. We just compare. What is and now I'm away from talking about Matt. I'm not talking about Matt anymore. I'm talking about just success in general. Like, what is the pain that a person feels that compels them to drive themselves that hard to reach a high level of success, right?
Right.
You always hear the story about like rock stars, right, that have this hole that are this pain they're trying to fix, and they get to where they're performing, huge 80,000 person stadiums, and it still just isn't doing it. And then you have like these young deaths in music, and it's like, damn, like,
yeah, you gotta think about the whole picture, and like
whole picture.
The first thing, I mean, and because he's so public about it, this is the person that comes to mind. But a lot of people aren't public about it. It's like Gary Vee, right? So Gary Vee's like, I didn't have any weekends. I didn't have my 20s. I was working in the dirt. Like, I was eating, expletive. And like, people like, oh man, Gary Vee's killing it or whatever. And not saying that you want to compare yourself to Gary Vee, but you're looking at what he's doing. Like, you might be able to trying to keep up content wise or whatever. And you're like, dude, do you really want to eat crap for like the next 10 years? Do you really not want to have any weekends? Do you want to work 15 hours a day? If so, okay, we could start weighing things in the balance. But if that's not what you want, don't compare yourself to that person, because that's not even the same type of grind you're on, you know? And exactly. I didn't even realize that until you just said it. Like, you have to compare the whole picture. And lots of people don't share the whole picture. You know, they mostly just share their successes. But you have to know, like, realize, like, man, like, they're going through things just like I am. You don't know what's driving them to do what they do. Like, there's so many different things that could be weighing in the balance. So it's no point in comparing yourself to individuals, because each individual has an individual story. So yeah, that's just something that I never really thought about until you just said it.
It's the whole picture, man. Because that's the thing that social media amplifies, is that it makes it harder and harder. If you know someone personally and you're talking to them, you can see their successes, but you're also going to see their failures through them, or, you know, because you're close to them. You know, they may be going through a separation, or like, you know, something. Their career looks super successful, but other things are not going great. You know, and that's just life. And we can't see that on social media unless people are super vulnerable, super authentic, right? In sharing that stuff, and not authentic in a way that just is a hope to get a bunch of likes on a vulnerable
authentic
post.
Air quotes. Yeah.
You know, like, this is a vulnerable I literally saw someone one time go, this is a really vulnerable thing for me to post right now, but I'm not sure if I should get a Lexus or BMW for my next car. I was like, you're kidding, right? This is a joke. This is a joke. I thought it was parody.
Right.
And I kept reading, and I was just like, what are you talking about? How is this possible? What is happening? So
you need to keep that authenticity to yourself.
Yeah. So, you know, it makes it increasingly hard to do this and compare the full picture. We just don't have it.
Yeah.
And you know, we have to kind of curate this for ourselves, because right now, what's hot is what's hot. You know, it's going to go to the top. What gets clicks is what makes people angry, and what makes people jealous, and what makes people think someone's an idiot. So that's what shows up. That's what we get in our feed. We have to take these steps. And there's actually a pretty straightforward way to actually implement, right? So you were talking about implementation earlier, because we've heard this, right? This is, you got to curate your feed. You have to remove Instagram and stuff like this. And this is the implementation part, which is the really, really hard part. The thing that happens with us, and this kind of digs into the habit part a little bit, is we try to take too big of steps. So Newton's third law, equal and opposite reaction. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If you throw a tennis ball against a wall, it's going to bounce back and maybe hit you in the head, you know. So you don't want to throw it too hard. Same thing applies, right, to this law of habits and changes that we make when we introduce discomfort into our lives. And so everybody tries to go too big, too fast, myself included. I did this for years, going to the gym. All right, I'm back at it. Like, let's go. It's been 3 years since I've, lifted a weight, but let's do this. I'm in hard. I'm committed. You go in, it's like January 1st, January 2nd, let's say January 2nd. Right, and you get into the gym, you run for 35 minutes, you like hit the weights super hard, and you end up being so incredibly sore and messed up that like, you're like, no, done. Yeah. And you don't go back for a week because you can barely walk. And you've effectively killed your habit. You've started a new habit of not working out already just one day after you worked out. So we really need to follow this sort of very simple, very small system. We're building the discipline habit every time we introduce discomfort into our lives by removing something that gives us comfort. And then we grow into that discomfort and get stronger. And then we introduce a little bit more discomfort externally. So we start, making we remove our favorite candy from the candy bowl, not even getting rid of the candy, right? Just our favorite one doesn't get bought anymore. A little bit of discomfort. Then you remove one more, you face that a little bit more. And it's this process of just continually stacking, getting stronger, only giving ourselves as much discomfort as we can handle in that moment. And the new habit is formed. It's got to start externally. And then we match it internally with our discipline matching, like, ooh, I really want to check Instagram right now. Or I feel this urge to take out my phone, but it's in the other room. So can I sit here for 30 seconds and just go, I'm okay. Like, I'm uncomfortable. I want to distract myself, but actually I'm going to survive. Like, I'm okay. And then face that in small ways over and over and over. So that's the secret. Like, changing that external thing, meeting it halfway, and then just continually ramping up our environment until we can really get to a place where we've been at the gym now for 3-4 weeks, when we're starting to look forward to it, when we're starting to see progress and things are happening. And then now you're like kind of hooked on it, right? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just small changes.
With the incremental changes, do you suggest going with how you feel, like if you're ready to go to the next step, or do you recommend kind of planning it out, like I'll remove this thing for like 2 weeks and then like I'll step it up in another 2 weeks? Or do you say, well, I'll take this and then when I feel like I'm ready, I'll go to the next one? Like, which one?
That's a tough one because I think it varies by person. Personally, I like laying out. So I'm not afraid to fail on a plan, which is weird to say, but my preference is to lay out a general roadmap for a couple weeks or something like that. All right, I'm going to delete Instagram for 30 days. And then I'm going to check in, see how it went, right? See if I want to go back into it for now or take another step in another direction. Same kind of deal for like habit stacking or for the gym. For me, I'm like, all right, I want to hit this lift, or I want to be able to run a 5K in under this time. So I'm going to increase my warm-up speed on my warm-up runs like by 0.1 miles per hour every week for the next 4 weeks, just to try to push up my base, right? I like the plan. And then if something goes wrong, because I base all my runs based on like my heart rate and keeping my heart rate below a certain point. So if my heart's not matching the speed I need to try to be at for the plan, I'm like, all right, well, that's fine. Come back, go to the next thing, and just work with it. You know, it's all about being adjustable. But I think having a plan gives you a nice trajectory. It gives you a nice like vision of what you actually want and a general outline, as long as it's not too aggressive, so that you're not fighting the Newton's third rule, you know, kind of deal. As long as it's paced right and you can always adjust. Yeah, like I like having a plan. I think it works well.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'm a plan type of person too, and maybe something that might help, because I know that I've failed on a good amount of plans myself, and maybe it's like whatever you think the plan should be, add like a buffer, and just give yourself that room, just in case things don't go the way, you know. And I wanted to get into that because you said you're not afraid to fail, which is a great thing, because that's probably how you learn the fastest. But when it comes to this, so habit planning or habit forming or goal attainment or whatever it is something that is we hear about it all the time. It's super common. I need to form better habits. But then we fail. Like, we've been failing pretty much probably our whole lives at some things. And how do you deal with kind of fail? Like, if you crumble and give in and don't stick to your commitment, what's your kind of method, at least mentally maybe, of getting back on the horse and keep riding?
Yeah, this is one I've been experimenting with, playing with for my entire life, because I've never been excellent at habits, building and maintaining habits. And I can confidently say that I have gotten better and better and better and better at doing it throughout my life. And so the way that I've done that is multiple fold, if that's a word. The first big thing that I've realized, an epiphany, right, is the idea of like shame around failing. So the biggest thing, this whole idea of like, oh man, I fell off the horse, or I felt fell off the wagon, right?
Yeah, fell off the wagon.
I fell off the wagon, man. I missed the gym on a day I was supposed to go. There is no wagon. That's like the first thing to realize. Life is long, man. It's long until it's not, right? Yeah. So life is too short, but in the same sense, we need to view it as, when it comes to habits, life is long. We're doing something not for today, but we're doing something when it comes to fitness, right? It's just an easy example to use. When it comes to fitness, like, that's a 10-year goal. That's a 20-year goal. We're not doing something because we want to be in shape tomorrow. I mean, we all want to be in shape tomorrow.
If it was possible.
But yeah. Right? But like, this is about extending your lifespan, being strong, having cardiovascular health. Yeah. And it's not a 6-month goal. Like, so a big thing with that is I've realized, like, you know what? There is no cart. There's no wagon. There's no horse, whatever, to fall off of. It's not going to leave you. It's still right here with you every single day. It's just your choice whether you want to get back up on it. Mm-hmm. It's not like taking off without you. You haven't missed your boat. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest thing to understand, is like, when you miss, especially with like diet, like, oh man, I blew out my diet yesterday. There's like this shame that happens where, like, well, I failed. And then you want to eat an entire pint of Ben & Jerry's the next day too. Mm-hmm. But realizing, like, no big deal, no sweat. Like, if you don't beat yourself up about it that much, be like, no, like, back at it. It's all good. Like, that's the big one. Matthew Vella talks about the 2-day rule, which I think, every now and then you're going to miss 2 days in a row, and that happens. But like, in general, if you can avoid having 2 days where you miss something that's important to you like that in a row, that's a really good rule to follow. So that's the first one, is understanding that, no, man, this is a lifelong thing, habit building the discipline around any of this stuff. And it continues to grow as long as you keep showing up. So that's good. The second thing with habit building is kind of like I was talking about, following the process. Everyone goes too big, too fast. And it's super uncomfortable. Like, everybody goes too big, too fast. And that's because of culture, right? That's because social media is so much about culture, so much about big leaps, big risks. Like Gary Vee, like, no, like, get in the dirt, like, just get in there, just start eating stuff. I don't know, like, whatever, clouds in the dirt. Yeah. It's so driven around. And oh my gosh, all these magazine covers, it's such trash. Lose 20 pounds in 14 days. Mm-hmm. Trash. Mm-hmm. Trash. All of it is trash. And so we have this perception that the right way to do it is fast, and we need to do it fast, when really it's like we need to reinvent ourselves. And we need to reinvent the lifestyle and the habits and the things day to day in a sustainable way that are actually going to change who we are by what we do. Not the other way around. We're not going to, be a different person and then do something that makes us a better person. We are what we do, right? So we're doing the things every day, the way we're showing up. Like, it's hard to say you're a runner if you're not running, Right. That's it. But the second you put on your shoes, whether you've never done it before in your life or not, the second you put on your shoes and you pick up one foot and put it in front of the next, and you're at a jog, you're jogging, you're a jogger, like, you own it, right? So James Clear talks about this, like, identity-based habits, and that's what it is. As soon as we start doing something, we get to own that identity, and that's beautiful. So smallest step makes you own it, and then you build from there.
Awesome. Yeah. And I did what episode was that? I think it was maybe episode 71 or 70. I talked about consistency. And like I said, the biggest aspect of me being any type of consistent is being inconsistent. Because in my inconsistency, I found that I made more gains. Like, if I messed up day 3 of day 7, like, I came back day 4. And I finished in day 9 instead of having to start over and doing it on day 14. So it's like, you have to just, like, the biggest way to stay consistent is to not dwell in your inconsistency, is to just do it again, just start over.
Beautifully said.
And I kind of want to get into, as we start to wrap up a little bit, some tools that you think might be helpful when it comes to staying focused, limiting distractions, and building these habits that will help us move forward, without all the other auxiliary things going around us. Are there any tools that you would recommend that might assist in this process?
Yeah, definitely. So the first one is a mental tool. So it's not really a tool, but It's a mental tool, and it's a exercise where you got to think about this. This is what it is. It's all about designing your environment, right? We are weak. Humans are weak. We are driven to go for the things that are going to give us the most calories in the fewest bites of food. It's built into us, our lizard brain, right? It's just built in. And so it really comes down to designing your environment, designing your space, designing your digital space, and creating the environment around you to best reflect what you want more of and less of in your life. And so that's where minimalism comes into play, like, right, removing the clutter in all forms. It doesn't have to be extreme. It just has to be, just at least somewhat aligned with what you're trying to get in your life. Mm-hmm. How you do that is think about it this way, right? New eyes to take onto your whole situation. Pretend that we are all long gone. It's 2,000 years from now or whatever is happening. And an archaeologist from the future discovers your home. They discover your laptop, and somehow they find the technology to plug it in and open it up, and they instantly hack your password. They're going to look around and seeing only what you have in your home, right? They're able to look around. It's all perfectly preserved for some reason. Seeing only what you have on your phone. What would they be able to tell about you? So what would they think your priorities are? What would they think you believed in? Your spirituality, your priorities of work, of life. What assumptions would they make about you based on what they find? Using only you not being able to sit there and be like, no, I really value time with friends. Mm-hmm. What assumptions would they make? Wow. And start looking at your life through that perspective. And all of a sudden you can see, the things around me are not necessarily indicative of the priorities I talk about all the time. So what's going on?
Yeah.
So that's a new perspective. That's a tool.
Wow. Whoa. That's good. That was wow. When you think about it from that perspective, I feel like you just wow, okay, yeah, this is not aligning. This is crazy. Okay, yeah, great.
That's the first one. Second one are actual kind of software tools, hardware tools. I use a thing, this is called Timular. Wow. For those watching, it's a cube that has different tasks on it, and it's become my favorite time tracking thing. You just set it down on one side, and it automatically starts tracking the thing that's at the top. So it's kind of a seamless way to just look at where your time is going and be conscious about flipping it. I've found is also part of the oh man, I've been on Facebook for 5 minutes and it says I'm writing right now. And so it helps you kind of snap into it. So tools like that are really helpful. There's an app on iOS called Forest where it gives you up to a 45 minute block of completely blocking out all the other apps on your phone. Little things like that are really, really good in terms of just setting a goal for, all right, I'm going to sit down and write in my journal for 45 minutes or whatever it is. Actually putting a physical block on the thing that you don't want to use. So that's another aspect of environmental design, right? A lot of it really just comes down to making it hard and adding intentional friction into the things that are distracting for you. So telling people, if you live with people, being like, hey, I'm going to be doing this, focusing really hard for the next 45 minutes. I would love to check in with you after that. even if it's your coworkers, right? This happens all the time. Coworkers are some of the worst interrupters of focus, and they're big distractions sometimes because you just pop in. So, you establish some boundaries around these things in your life, and it's a little uncomfortable, but you got to close the email inbox. Can't leave that open all day. A lot of people just leave it open in the tab all day. I do it sometimes. A lot of things like that. Just making these small kind of changes and things with these tools. It's like, I have this is gross, but I had this really bad habit for 20 years. I had a scar on my arm, and I would always scratch it. From the time I was 12 years old, I got this scar, and just without thinking, mindlessly, I would just like scratch it while I was sitting. That's totally gross. I'm sorry I'm even talking about this. It took 20 years. I had this habit. I'm serious, 20 years. And one day I was like, I'm sick of having this just scar on my arm that's constantly beat up. And I put Band-Aids over it for 3 weeks, completely broke a 20-year-old habit. And now it's gone. I mean, the scar's still there. It's slightly different, but like, it's not bad anymore. It's not raised or whatever. Literally just putting something in front of it so that every time I went to mindlessly scratch my arm, right? I can't do that. There's something there. It's such a direct and significant example because it literally broke a 20-year-old habit that I was doing just by putting a stupid Band-Aid over it for a couple weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing we need to do. We just have to create friction with the things we want to change and create less friction with the things we want more of in our lives.
Right. And I think something else was on the friction topic. Like, I know this has happened to me before. So like, I remove something or something like that to add more friction. Like, it's not there, but also like the amount of friction it takes to go back to that thing. Like, if it's like an app on my phone and like I just what is it called when you kind of like take it off, but it's not actually off your phone? It's like just not. It has like the little cloud next to it. I don't know. I forgot what it's called.
Oh yeah, you do. It's like it's installed but not downloaded.
Right. Yeah, it's installed but not downloaded. It's like you literally just click it and it's back on your phone, or like something where you put the app like somewhere in a different location, and like eventually you'll just figure out how to get back to that thing. Like, it's not that hard. So like something for me, like I have to make it like so difficult to kind of get back to what I want to do, what I initially want to do, not what I want to do in my mind, but that it makes it even more work to go back to the habit than to just like keep it. That's just something as far as friction, I know, like that helped me a lot, like having it more work to go back to the habit than just to keep the good habit.
That
was
super
very
smart.
helpful. Minimalism is something I have never ever looked into. Like, I just really started understanding it by watching Matt on YouTube. And I just kind of want you to kind of educate the audience and myself on kind of what minimalism is, and maybe if it could be useful in our lives.
I think everyone on earth should be a minimalist. And here's why. My definition of minimalism, the way that I use it, is one very simple thing. It doesn't mean owning 3 shirts. It doesn't mean suffering. It means removing distractions from your life. So the archaeologist example, it's implementing the results of that, right? That's what minimalism is. It's looking at your life and it's removing the things that are not serving you. They're not serving the people you love or the people around you. They're not helping you in any way. It is taking time away from the things that you actually want more of in your life. That's it. There are a lot of different people that talk about this stuff and say it's about having a loft with brick walls and huge windows and white bedspreads and this like perfect fern plant in the corner.
Yeah.
If you're a millennial. And all of that is great. It's a nice Scandinavian design aesthetic, right? But to me, that's not minimalism. That's a minimalist design aesthetic. Minimalism is removing distractions from your life. It doesn't mean feeling bad that your house has blue walls. because, in order to be a good minimalist, I have to have white walls, or my bed's, if I'm not sipping green tea on my white duvet cover and like have this effortlessly messy like hairdo, the whole thing has been blown out to this just other thing that we need to feel bad about ourselves, or another standard that we need to try to reach by buying new furniture that's minimalist, and like buying like more minimalist storage solutions. And it just, to me, feels so defeating, where really we just need to remove distractions. That's it. Remove distractions from your life and you are a minimalist. I love it.
I mean, in that case, we do definitely all need to be minimalist. And I'm glad you said that, because, kind of the, I guess, stereotype behind like, I wasn't thinking necessarily like minimalistic design, but I was like, I don't know if I could do it. And what you just said is something that is doable for almost everyone if you have the willpower to do so. I was thinking like, I have to get rid of like all like the extra stuff in my house. Like I can only use like one utensil and one bowl and, like have no type of waste type of thing. Whether that's like mental waste, technological waste, or physical waste. That's a little overwhelming to think about.
It's completely overwhelming and unproductive.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to thrive in that environment, at least not right off the break. Like I would have to work my way toward that. And for some people, that might not even be a goal of theirs. Like they just don't want to live that type of lifestyle. But I'm pretty sure everybody wants to limit the distractions in their life. So that's a great place to start. Thanks so much, Anthony. I want to ask you one last question, because it's just one that I ask everyone that comes on the show, and I use it in your introduction. And that is, if you had a billboard that you wanted everyone to see, what would be the message that you would want to be on that billboard?
I was thinking about this. I think I would just write, pay attention.
Pay attention.
And then maybe breakthetwitch.com underneath that.
Yeah, of course. It's sponsored by breakthetwitch.com. Yeah.
Gotta at least utilize the, if I'm going to see everybody's going to see it. Might as well, throw something up on there.
And when you say pay attention, what exactly do you mean by when you say pay attention? Like pay attention to yourself, pay attention to what other people are doing? What do you mean exactly?
Yeah. I think that would be interpreted in a lot of different ways if I just put pay attention. Going back to just the foundation of this and where we are with Break the Twitch right now, it's like our attention is so valuable. It's so valuable that people literally, companies, organizations, people literally are paying for it, right? They're paying to grab your attention for a split second. Yeah. And if that's the case, what if we fully own that attention? What if we use it to look at our lives, to look at the world around us, to direct it in ways that are meaningful to us, productive and helpful to others in our lives? Like, if we fully own our attention, we own our actions, we own our mindfulness, we own our lives. So paying attention, I mean, it's everything. You can change what you pay attention to. You can't change what you're not paying attention to. Yeah.
Wow. That's good. And I think that would actually just be pretty funny just to see on a billboard, because it's like pay attention and you're like distracted reading the billboard. I think that would be great. I would love to see that on the road. That would make me laugh.
So someone's driving and they look up from their smartphone and see a billboard. And they see a billboard that says pay attention.
Exactly. Oh man, that's great.
So there you have it. You need to become a minimalist. We all do. I love the definition Anthony provided for minimalism, because it proves that we're all capable of achieving discipline in our lives. You don't need a unique aptitude to discipline in order to start limiting distractions in your life. We often talk about curating our feed to what we want, but honestly, we need to curate our lives. Be intentional about what you let in to your mind. I'm in the process of doing this in my own life as we speak, and I'm realizing that keeping positive habits is a lot easier when you monitor what's in your environment to begin with. So let's start with something small. Like Anthony said, remove your favorite candy from the jar first, not every piece of sugar in your house. Be consistent with one small commitment at a time. If you learned anything from this episode, show some appreciation by just leaving a quick rating on iTunes, please. Thank you very much. All right, I will talk to you guys next week. Until then, keep building your vision every single day. Peace. Hey guys, Clee here. Thanks so much for listening to the Build Your Vision podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would think you did if you stayed all the way to the end. The best thing that you could do to help support this show is by sharing it with somebody. By you just taking a few seconds to recommend this show to somebody, you are making a huge impact, not only on the success of this show, but possibly on that person's life.